What's up guys, my name is Jason. This video is all about how to break 20 minutes in a 5K. I'm going to share the exact workouts, exact paces, and training strategies to help you guys get there. Now almost a year ago I made a video very similar to this one. I had tons of amazing feedback and great comments regarding it, and I wanted to make something even better for you guys. So here is part 2 to how to break 20 minutes in a 5K. We're going to dive in deeper to race strategy. We're going to dive deeper into those pacing strategies, as well as different workouts to help you guys get there. Now, I didn't think I'd actually have to do this, but here is a disclaimer. Thanks to a special someone who commented on the video way back when. Don't worry, the comment is gone and we've addressed the situation. But this video is not for everyone. Do not watch this video and think, okay, this is all I have to do to break 20. Obviously, it takes some time, it takes some effort, it takes experience in order to get to this point. So if you are a brand new runner, think of this as a goal to reach this point. Now that we got that out of the way, let me briefly tell you about myself. I first broke 20 minutes in the 5K in 2005 as a sophomore in high school. Since then, I've broken 20 in just about every single race that I participated in since that day. Breaking 20 minutes is probably one of the major barriers that a lot of runners face, and a lot of it is mental, but there are some physical components that you have to overcome to reach that point. So the purpose of this video, just like the last one, is to share those exact paces, workouts, and race strategies to get you to that point. So without further ado, let's go over to the computer and let's dive in. All right guys, so let's dive in and talk about how to run a sub 20 minute 5K. This is part 2, and here we go. So to run a 19:59 5K, the pace that you want to run per mile is 6 minutes and 26 seconds per mile. So if you were to run perfectly even splits, your splits would look something like this. You'd have a 6:26 first mile, a 12:52 2 mile, and a 19:18 3 mile. Now remember, that's if you ran it perfectly even, no variance. So for my biggest fans, the people who commented on the last video and reached out and said some mean things about me, here's what I said. In my previous video, I said, in my opinion, and from my own experience, I recommend going out in 6:10 to 6:15 pace for the first mile, maintain that for the second, and hang on for the third. Obviously, this strategy is not for everyone, much like this person thought I was trying to say. It is not for everyone. When I was in high school, I was hovering right around that sub 20 minute marker for quite a while. I'd run from 20 minutes flat to 20:29 like 10 times. And it was so frustrating because I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. I just couldn't get through that barrier. It wasn't until I went out a little bit harder in that Land O'Lakes cross country invitational and I was able to break that 20-minute barrier for the first time. The same thing happened when I was trying to break the 18-minute barrier. And I'll make another video talking about that another time. But when I was trying to break 18, it was the same thing. I've been running around 18:15, 18:20, and I just couldn't quite get through that wall. So when I say go out a little bit harder, that is just from my own experience. Obviously, it is not for everyone, so take it for what it is, but that is my story with that. So the reason why I like to go out a little bit harder is this could give you some more cushion. Now I say could because if you go out too hard, obviously you're going to blow up if you go out faster than you need to. So here's a little bit of comparison. So if you were to go out at 6:15 per mile, you'd run about a 19:25 for a 5K if you held that even through the whole way. Now, obviously there's some drift between that first mile and what will come the second and third mile. But if you were to run a 6:15 each mile, you'd run a 19:25. Now, for me personally, I like having a little bit of cushion those first couple miles so I can know, mentally that I can get through that barrier on that third mile. Now, here's a comparison. So if you were to go, if you wanted to run a 19:59 on the dot with no wiggle room, with no room for air, you'd run 16:25, just under you'd run 6:25 per mile. Now, running 6:25 3 times does not leave you much room for error. So that is why in the initial video, I said 6:10 to 6:15, okay? So here is what different workouts and pacing strategies will look like for that 6:10 to 6:15 for the first 2 miles. So these are the target paces that would get you to a 19:25. You'd run intervals around 6:06 to 6:12 pace. You'd run threshold or tempo runs around 6:41 pace, and your easy days would be conversational pace, meaning if you can't sing happy birthday when you're running, you're going too hard. So there's a difference between getting it right under 20 and under 20 with some wiggle room. Now, in my first video, I was specifying having some wiggle room there. Now, there's more than one race strategy to get under 20. There's no one way to do it, just like there's no one way to run a world record. Yes, world records have been run in certain ways, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. So there's more than one way to break 20. So here are some things to consider. Number one is the experience of the runner. The more races you've participated in, the more race experience you have, and mentally you know what to do when the things start getting tougher and the pain starts to set in, as well as how many years you've been a runner. If you're just starting out and you don't really know what to expect in a race, when that burning and that pain starts to come in, it may catch you off guard a little bit. Also, years and miles running at that specific level. So in my case, I've been running right at that 20 minutes to 20:30 for it felt like forever. And I've been right at that level, and all it took was a little bit of a shove off the cliff to get me to that next level. One other thing to consider is race courses and variations. Now, it's one thing to run a sub 20 on a downhill course. It's another thing to run it on a hilly course. So take that for what it's worth. Courses and weather and all those sort of things play a role into getting under 20. So when I'm writing workouts for athletes, and whether that's for a 5K, marathon, whatever, but in this case, specifically for a 5K, I'm going to write workouts in two different categories. One is category A, which is like a fast workout, and two is category B, which is a strong workout. So here's the difference. So fast workouts tend to stress that anaerobic system, whereas strong workouts tend to stress that aerobic system. Now, I know that's not exactly what it is. Now, I know there's some differences in opinions there, whether that's anaerobic and aerobic, but just for simplistic reasons, think of it in this way. So category A, so you'll do these workouts once a week. So if you wanted to break 20 in minutes in a 5K, here are a few different workouts you can do. You can do 5 by 1K repeats, targeting about 355 to 4 flat for that 1K. Have about a minute to 2 minutes rest between each one. Another workout is 6 by 800 meters, targeting 305 to 310 pace for the 800 with about 90 seconds rest. And another one, which is one of my favorites, is 400 meter repeats. For this situation, I'm saying just start with 8 by 400 meters, but you can go up to 12. And if you really feel adventurous, you can go to 16. But remember, your pacing will likely become more of a struggle the further you go on. So those 400s target 130 per 400. So if you notice, all of those fast workouts hover right around kind of that race pace that we were talking about, that 6:10 to 6:15, even kind of towards 6:20-ish. So those are the fast workouts. Now the strong workouts, these are workouts to kind of expand your system, is one way to think of it. So for example, you could run a 20-minute tempo or threshold workout. You can also run 2 by 2 miles at a tempo or threshold with 3 minutes jog in between. The whole point of these strong workouts is to build up your lactic threshold. So your lactic threshold is the ability of your body to clear lactate when it's produced in the body. So when we're running, we produce this product called lactate. And our lactic threshold is when we can no longer clear that lactate. When we're not able to clear it anymore, that's when we usually tend to see a spike in heart rate. We tend to feel like our legs are heavy. Some people even describe as feeling the burn. There is some dispute about whether that burn is from lactic or just from acid, but that is lactic threshold. So here's a couple other bonus workouts that I love to do to help reach that sub 25K mark. So I like to call this a simple crank up or a progression tempo run. So usually this would be about 6 to 9 miles total. You start with a warm up of 2 to 3 miles, and then you would crank up every half mile for about 2 to 2.5 miles. And then again, you'd cool down for 2 to 3 miles. Now remember, the threshold pace for a 1925 minute 5K was about 6:41 per mile. Remember, we saw that on the VDOT calendar or the VDOT calculator. So for example, your 800 meter crank up could look something like this. So that first half mile, you could run around 7 flat. Your second half mile would be 6:50. Your third, fourth, and fifth, you'd gradually increase 10 seconds. This is a true progression run because you're progressing your speed as you go along. Now, if you take the average of those 5 800 meter or 5 half mile intervals, or time intervals or distance intervals, your average pace would be around 6:40, which is pretty spot on to your threshold pace. Remember, your threshold pace for 1925 is a 6:41. So if you can run this workout, you should be feeling pretty confident about getting really close to sub 20, if not beyond it. So here's kind of a weekly layout for how I build my weeks for people who are trying to break 20. So I suggest having at least 4 to 5 days of running. Not saying you could do it in less, not saying you have to have more, but kind of the sweet spot for this is probably 4 to 5 days. Obviously, if you run a little bit less than that, if you're only running 3 days a week, it's going to be a little tougher. I'm not saying it's impossible, but realistically, you want to run at least 4 to 5 days a week. Within the week, you want to have a long run, which is usually on the weekend. For me, I do my long runs on Saturday. I know some people that do them on Sunday. Usually, it's at the end of the week. So over the course of your training, you'll want to build up your long run to about 7 to 8 miles, at least 7 to 8 miles. The reason being is the longer you run at that easy pace, the stronger your aerobic base will become, meaning run slow to run fast. You also want to have a couple easy days built into that week. Easy meaning 30-ish minutes of running, give or take. And also those 2 workouts that we talked about before, one from category A, which is all fast workouts, and one from category B, which was all strength workouts. And one of my favorite things to add, that's kind of like the secret sauce to getting faster, is adding what's called striders to the ends of your workouts, or the ends of your runs, period, throughout the week. So a strider is kind of like a stride out, except it's not really a sprint. You're not going all out. You're running at about 90 to 95% of your max speed, but you're focusing on form. You're focusing on being smooth in your breathing and just feeling fast. So if this video has been any help to you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button down below, and leave a comment letting me know what your 5K PR is. And one last thing to note, one of the hardest things about breaking 20 minutes is the mental component. They don't call it the wall for nothing. That's why they say we're smashing the 20-minute barrier. The same thing happened when we were getting close to the 4-minute mile. The same thing happened when we broke the 2-hour marathon barrier. It is a barrier. So in your mind, be ready. Expect that the pain is going to be there. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be a challenge to it. So run that first mile with your brain, run that second mile with your legs, and run that third mile with your heart. I believe in you guys. You got this. Run strong, run fast.